Yeah, in this podcast, you're going to play the role of the girl.
Yay, a real girl.
Yeah.
Oh,
You can take off the skirt, right?
I knew this having a
Damn
podcast.
skirt.
is awesome.
I knew when you're having a podcast, we get the ladies.
This is the AT Banter Podcast, a balanced and entertaining look at assistive technology, accessibility, and its importance in people's lives. Join Rob Minot, Ryan Fleury, and Steve Barclay as they banter with people around the world about anything and everything regarding assistive technology and the disability community. Now, on with the show.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of AT Banter.
Banter.
My name is Rob Minot. Joining me today, Mr. Steve Barclay,
Howdy.
Mr. Ryan Fleury,
Howdy.
and a very special guest, drum roll. Okay, you guys suck.
We only have one drumstick. It's for the cowbell. Here,
fine.
I'll do a cowbell solo.
Okay, that's close.
Close
That's
enough?
close.
All right.
Ryan, tell the people who we have on the line with us to help us with our new show.
Today's very special guest host is Maria Johnson, otherwise known as Girl Gone Blind.
Woo!
Yeah.
Hey guys, hey! All I can say is more cowbell, more cowbell.
How about some jingle sticks?
You got everything over there.
Oh, yeah.
We're showing off. See,
Guitar Dungeon, jingle sticks, cowbell.
Yeah.
You
I tell
betcha.
you, we have a girl on, and everybody's just showing off.
That's right. Pulling out all the stops.
Oh, I can hear the testosterone from all the way in California.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I'm glad to be here, guys. Thanks for asking me to be on with you, and looking forward to getting some banter on with the boys.
You shouldn't be, but okay.
Hey, I already posted it on Facebook, so
Oh,
let's
that's
go with it.
And
Let's
on,
go with
and on Twitter, I saw your post yesterday. You
That's
mentioned
right.
it.
Let's make it happen.
Well,
Make the
hey,
magic happen.
before we get started, we should let people know what Maria's claim to fame is, and a little bit about her blog.
Why don't we let Maria tell us?
Okay.
Okay, I'll go.
You go.
Yes, as you said, I am also known as Girl Gone Blind. I have a blog at www.girlgoneblind.com where I write about my unexpected life of losing my vision later in life. And it's been around since 2014, and it has over 100 blog post entries on it currently. And it has been shared all over, and it's kind of put me on the map, if you will. And I love doing it. I just recently got back from speaking at a conference, Foundation Fighting Blindness conference, on emotional support and lifestyle support for people with visual impairments. I am off to a conference tomorrow morning. I'm leaving for Nashville at dark 30 to go to another conference to do some presenting and moderating. And life is busy. Life is good. I'm here on AT
Excellent.
Banter.
So you slipped a bit in the world. Is what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm crawling my way back. Definitely. It's a long way to the top.
We're just here for contrast.
That's right. I'm doing some great things in the
And the
Banter.
podcast.
Well, I got to have my backup boys too,
That's true,
you know.
for sure.
So there you go.
Well, tell us a little about this conference then that you were at the
Foundation Fighting Blindness.
Yeah. How was that?
Yes. Oh, it was great. And to be honest, it was the first conference that I have presented at other than my own, which is the one I'm going to in Nashville, which I'll touch on that in a second. But I was asked to apply to be a presenter or a speaker there at their conference. And I applied and wrote a description, if you will, about supporting a loved one with an inherited retinal disease, which is basically, vision loss support and, be it emotional communication, the environment, things of that sort. And although I don't have an inherited retinal disease, it's a vision loss just the same. So lo and behold, they accepted my application to present. And then I had about 7 months of freaking out because I had to actually come up with the full presentation. I've written about this stuff, time and time and time again, but to put it in a presentation format was something I had not done, let alone present to a group of people that I've never had any contact with. Because I'm not in an IRD, I'm not a member of Foundation Fighting Blindness, but, I was willing to take the opportunity and see what I could do. So let me just say, I totally nailed it, guys. I crushed it.
All right.
Crushed it. And standing room only. I got laughs. I got some tears. I got hugs at the end. I got really, really good questions from people at the end. I had people kind of following me down the corridor of the hotel going, wait, and telling me they loved my session. And, I was humbled because I thought, me? I mean, I just talked about what I know and from my experiences and shared what I think is good support for a loved one with vision loss of any type. So it was awesome, guys. It was a thrill. I was surprised at how easy it was for me to do, meaning that I wasn't as nervous and a hot mess as I thought I really would be. And I am hoping that I can take it to the next level and do it more often. So it was fantastic. It really, really was.
Excellent. FFB does some great work. We've crossed trails with them bunches of times, and they're one of those organizations that you love to support because they've just got their fingers in so many different pies and so much research, and they spread the word about the research. They're a great group.
Yeah, I sat in some of the other sessions, and I just went for the one day, the day that I was had my gig, and I listened to a few keynotes, talked to quite a few people with RP, a few folks with Star Guards, and there's nothing like being in a group setting with a bunch of folks that are there all for the same reason, which is to fight blindness, if you will, but also folks who can connect and understand each other about what each other's going through, whether it's in your child or your spouse or your partner going through vision loss. And there was even a couple that was sitting at the same table I was at the closing remarks and session. And they actually came over to me and said, the only reason we're here is to see you. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what? No, come on. And they go, no, we came just for the one day because we knew you were going to be here. And we came to your session and we loved it. And you're the reason we're here. I don't even know what to say to things like that because I was, again, humbled, flattered, and just thought, wow, did they just really say that? So anyway, we chatted for quite some time. Very lovely couple with, he has RP and their son has RP. And, they're just going through the motions, just like, the rest of us. So anyway, all the organizations that I've worked with, I'm currently going to Nashville tomorrow to speak at our own LHON, which is my eye condition, my vision loss symposium, which is connected with the United Mitochondrial Disease Foundation symposium. So we got a lot going on there, but we hold our own little separate symposium, if you will, alongside them. And we have doctors and scientists and people talking about living with LHON. And we talk assistive tech, we talk, education, whatever it may be for folks who are directly in the LHON community. So that's what's up next. And might eat a little bit of barbecue in between, but yeah, so it's busy. And, guys, I love every second of it. I really, really do.
Now, when you started the blog, you probably had no idea that it would ever turn into this. And probably that was not even your initial intent.
No. Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. When I started it 3 months after I was diagnosed and, 2 months after I was legally blind. And I literally just put it out there and kind of just to get it off my chest, if you will. And let people know what was kind of going on with me and not flooding everybody's news feed with poor me, guess what happened, that kind of stuff, which, we all have too much of, we see that too much anyway.
Right.
So it was simply just, I'm just going to do this and, think maybe a couple people will read it, and at least, my immediate family would be caught up in everything. But it just grew and grew and grew. And I have to say, with each blog I wrote and the encouragement and the positive comments I would get from it, of course, motivated me to write more and write again. But keeping in mind that I truly do write with purpose. I don't write just to write. And that has made a big difference as well, because people will take it and they relate to it and they share it and they think, yes, you're spot on. This is exactly it. And then, of course, when it got picked up by larger organizations such as FFB, AFB, RNIB, all of the, the bigger Hadleys and things like that, then it really took off, because then I really got the exposure. So, and getting onto podcasts such as yours, which, I love to do. So, yeah, did I think someone would be coming up to me and saying the only reason we're here at a national conference is to see you? No way. Not at all. Not at all. But then again, when I started, I didn't know where it would go. So, I just, it's taking the opportunities, and the opportunities you don't take might be the ones that are going to get you, moving forward and get you further. And, but if they don't, they don't. And that's kind of how I've gone with it. It's, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But, I only have 4, I got to live this way the rest of my life. So why not make the most of it?
See, so there you go. So, I mean, that's this year. Next year people will be cosplaying as you, right? That's when you really hit it big.
Oh yeah. When I'm featured at Comic-Con, I know I've made it. I've made it. I'll have my own booth and everything.
Yeah, that's, and it just goes to show you the power of just like a personal blog and just blogging about your own personal experiences and tapping into something that a lot of other people might be going through. It's so reassuring, I'm sure, for them to hear this other voice saying, you know what, I'm going through the same thing, and here are my experiences, and here are the hurdles that I'm currently going over or that I have gone over. I mean, it's powerful stuff.
Well, thank you. And that's exactly it. And, I never thought it would be something that would bring awareness, not only to LH1, but to vision loss, in general for folks and other huge organizations and institutes. And it's done just that. And, I've put out some of my darkest moments and secrets on this thing. So, my life, is an open blog, as they say.
Right.
And it's been good for me. It's been really good for me. And I probably wouldn't be where I am today without putting the blood, sweat, and tears into that blog, knowing that there seemed to be some potential. So, it's been fun. It's been fun. And, people call me GGB, now that's my new nickname, and I, you know what? And I don't mind at all. I'd rather be called GGB than a lot of other things. That's for sure. So, it's been great. Although my kids say, you could just tell when mom starts to become girl gone blind. You can just tell. It's like it's around my people, I'm around my people. But I try not to change my personality. It's an extension of who I am now. I'm still Maria, but it's an extension of who I am now. And, that's all it is.
Well, we've been doing this podcast for how many episodes now?
107
years. 107. 2 years we've been doing this podcast, and yet nobody has asked us to speak at a damn thing so far.
I bet it's all because of our
Why
host.
is that, Rob? What's the deal?
What's
the dealio?
I don't know.
Maybe they just don't like that.
You guys need to be more personable.
Maybe they don't like our intro.
Shut up. Intro's great. You're just jealous of my catchphrase.
I tell you one of the secrets. Let me tell you one of the secrets.
Okay, go.
Between you guys and me. You know what? When I cleaned my blog up, meaning I stopped using the F word, I got hits, man. I got shared. Really? And I got hits. And I am not even kidding you. I I did finally ask an organization here in San Diego. I said, why don't you guys ever share my blog? I mean, I've been to your organization. I'm in San Diego. And they flat out told me because I use profanity. And now it wasn't, like a big, rapper delight type profanity, crazy, thing. But I did throw in the colorful words because that's what came out. I was dictating them and blah, that's just what came out. And I left it there because that was the real deal. That I wasn't going to sugarcoat. That was the deal. But minute I cleaned up, I remember, I'll just never forget the first blog I put out that was completely clean, no explicit quote unquote next to it. It got shared by Hadley Institute the next day. And I was like, okay, I get it now. There's something to this. So I did have to clean it up. I did have to become more mature, but as you guys know, that's not always fun either. So, I will sprinkle a few crazy blogs in between. And as long as I can get someone to the blog, be it, a clean blog,
right,
they can go read the other ones after that. I'm sure the same thing. If you can get them to the podcast, they can go listen to the rest of them and whatever's there is there. But, that's why I've been thinking about starting my own podcast. So I can say whatever the hell I want.
Besides, they don't need us to invite us to go speak. They just listen to the podcast, and it's like, okay, yeah, well,
yeah. Press play.
What do we want? What do we want to listen to this live for?
So there's a lesson in here, Ryan.
What's the lesson?
You might get the call next week.
Stop dropping the F-bomb, you shithead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, sheesh. Well, I've been on worse podcasts, trust me, where there's like, dudes, you need to really stop saying those words because it's too much. But I don't think I use the F-bomb so much, but I will do other words, and I'll use the $ and the asterisk. And let me tell you, when people are reading that over with voiceover, it's not the same.
No.
It's true.
It really doesn't work. So that's why I hesitate to, use asterisks and stuff like that, because it just, $H asterisk T. No, it completely loses the whole effect. So, I guess you just, got to live with it.
Okay, well, you guys ready for some news?
What's new?
News. Hey, you know what? Actually, before we launch into the news, I just want to make a shout out to Steve K, who left us a very lovely message about, I forget what episode this is, but I remember we were talking about the ADA down in the States, and they had changed the bill a little bit and watered it down so that companies now had, I think, 120 days to comply with complaints before you were able to litigate against them.
Yeah.
There is in some way, I don't know. Anyways, it was an email about that, and he just kind of thanked us about. It's too long to read, to be honest. It's a long. Sorry, Steve, I'm not going to read it. But it was a extremely good email. The nuts and bolts of it is he agreed with me.
That's not the goal.
That's what I took away from
Read the email.
Hold on. No, I'm not going to read the whole email. It'll take forever. Here, I'll read the relevant part. The relevant part is, I also agree with Rob's point, sadly and reluctantly, that often nothing happens without some litigation. Boom. Okay, he might have already...
Let me see that email.
Fine.
Let me see. They don't share these emails with me. They get these and then they talk about them on the air, but they don't actually let me read them at all.
All you got to do is go to the AT Banter podcast Gmail account and you can read them.
He doesn't have the passwords and stuff for that. We don't give him the passwords.
He doesn't even listen to the shows.
Look at that. Right first line. HR620. I couldn't agree more with Steve and Ryan.
I know.
About
Right at the top. Right at the
being
top.
to alert businesses and have a conversation with them first.
See, Rob missed over that.
Yeah.
Whole
it's the first line.
First line, yeah.
Hey, watch the F-bomb.
He got to the bottom line where I also agree with Rob.
Well, listen.
See, he couldn't agree more with Ryan and I, but he
also
reluctantly, sadly and reluctantly agrees with Rob.
Oh, when you put that spin on it, sure. Thanks a lot, Steve. I take it all back.
Send us another email, Steve.
No, don't. I don't want to hear from you again. sadly and reluctantly don't want to hear from you.
Your demand, Steve.
Anyways, thanks for the email, Steve. Okay, all right. Let's get to some news. Otherwise, we're going to be here all day. So, hey, let's talk some Google.
Google.
Because Google is always some good news. Yeah, this is a minor story, but they have apparently rebranded TalkBack. The TalkBack app is now going to be bundled in with a few other apps and called the Android Accessibility Suite. So along with TalkBack, there's going to be Switch Access, which is allows for device control with switches, obviously.
Very important for physical disabilities.
Absolutely. And the Select to Speak app that lets users select something on screen, and then the app will read that text aloud.
Very important for all kinds of people with print disabilities.
Yep. So good. This is good. Anything that makes
Well, I think the biggest advantage it has is instead of looking for three separate distinct apps, now you can just find the accessibility bundle and get it all in one shot.
Yeah, totally makes sense.
A lot easier. Maria, you iOS or Android?
I was going to say, I agree. Yes, no. Remember, I'm sitting here looking pretty, but just so your listeners know, that's my job. I am iOS, I am iPhone, and but I do know that Android, has always needed to kind of step it up, to be as accessible as the iPhone accessibility features. So I thought that was a great article, and it sounds like they are coming around to trying to make it not just stepping up the accessibility, but also making it easier to get to their accessibility features.
That's exactly right. And both Android and Microsoft have been really just playing catch up to Apple and iOS for 3-4 years now.
I actually saw, I think a week or so ago too, that on the Google Play Store, there's actually a separate section now for accessibility apps.
Right.
For accessible apps.
See, and I remember one of the first news stories that we ever did on the podcast in like episode 1 or 2 was the fact that the Apple Store had just done that. They'd created specifically an accessibility section in the store. So, again, and that was what, 2 years ago, over 2 years ago.
Right.
So, again, everybody's, sort of playing catch up in that sense to Apple. So good to see.
Yeah.
Anybody else got anything to say about that?
Go Android.
Woo, 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 woo.
What about you guys? Are you Android or iOS?
We're all Android.
Yeah, we are.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. And honest, it's all about iTunes. The iTunes is completely the reason why I switched to Android.
I think it's the reason we all switched at the time.
At the time,
now you don't have to use iTunes, but at the time it was just such a nightmare getting your content onto your phone and back and forth. And with Android, you could plug your phone in, USB cable, copy paste, done. Away you went. Now
actually, while we're talking about Apple, I didn't include this in the news articles, and so I'm just sort of spitting this out off from memory, which is probably a bad idea because I'll get it completely wrong. But there was an article last week too about Apple is putting LCD screens.
It's in the AT Banter Gmail from Beth, if you wanted to pull it up. But yeah, it sounds like they're coming out with, I think, 2 LCD screen phones this fall and 1 OLED screen.
So they're trying to drop the price of the X's. Or the 10s, I guess. I don't know if it's called 10 or X. I'm confused.
Yeah, it depends on who you ask.
Okay, sure. Okay, well, we'll call it the X. But yeah, they're trying to drop the price on that thing. So they're putting some cheaper screens in some of the versions. So
will that help? We shall see.
Well, can't hurt.
Can't hurt. Nope.
Right. When I first was losing my vision, it was back when Apple did not have the larger screen phones, and so I thought, well, I know what's going to fix everything. I'm going to go to an Android because they had the larger screens, and I forget which one I had, Galaxy Note something, but it was one of the ones with the it was big at the time. And so I switched over and I'm like, I'm going to learn this, new operating system and how the Androids work and all that stuff. And it was it was so difficult because I had been an iPhone user forever. And lo and behold, probably 2 months in, I couldn't see that screen either because I didn't really realize that my vision was going to go as far as it did. So I did struggle with the Android. I just never really took to it. I ended up going back to iPhone as much as I hated, Siri, and she just was always such a, and I had a love hate with her, but I went back and, I've kind of been back ever since. It's just been, since I was previously one before I lost my sight, it just became more of a natural learning process and a little bit easier than just going a whole new phone. So, I did try it out. I have to say I have tried it. Maybe the time in my life wasn't the best time to try it out, but I did give it a shot. But I do know folks who absolutely love Android for so many different reasons. And I'm not one to really dive into new tech, just whenever on a whim. So, I stay with what I'm comfortable with. So it kind of works for me now, but it does, when I see some demos on phones, my son is super into, Androids and Googles and all that. He is always showing me all the new phones, and they're slick and they're nice and they do looks really tempting, but I go, no, hold on, Maria, old dog, new tricks. Yeah, we don't do that anymore. So here we are.
Well, Android has come a long way, but one of the biggest selling features I think, Android has is you can get into the ecosystem for, $150, $200. You don't have to buy $1,000 phone. Yeah, there's a lot more choice.
Yeah, my daughter just had to buy a new phone, which, I think $700.
Yeah.
And that hurts, that's definitely a sting in the pocketbook for sure.
But I think that this is an indication that Apple is feeling that pressure from the market. They're actively dropping the price, I think, to try to compete with all the other options that are out there. Because I think they've realized that, the shine is off the apple, pun intended.
Well, if you want a flagship phone, then yeah, spend the $900 to $1,000. But not everybody needs a flagship phone, right?
Well, in the days of people lining up for 3 days before an iPhone launch are over. It's not going to happen again. They can't rest on those laurels. So I think they're beginning to realize that, and so I think that in the future, I think that we're going to see more in the way of price drops, and they're really going to try to get competitive with their product, which could mean things like this, like swapping out the type of technology that of the phone to try to drop that price. So it'll be an interesting thing to keep an eye on. But
yeah.
Hey, let's talk Microsoft for a second. You notice this on all these news shows, we're always either talking about Apple, Google, or Microsoft.
Because they're the three big players.
So we should talk about Microsoft.
What the hell?
Talk about Linux.
Okay, what's Linux up to?
I don't know.
See, exactly. They're on the news. Who cares?
Who?
Linux. You nerd. Only nerds know what Linux is.
Microsoft bought GitHub.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
Do I care in any way about this?
I don't know. Do you?
I don't even know what GitHub is.
And you probably don't care.
I wasn't going to be first to say, what's that?
I
And you
think
probably don't care.
I kind of know about it. Isn't it just...
It's basically an open source community where developers can put their code up and share it and contribute
God.
it.
Did you hear that? Oh, no.
a bunch of words that mean nothing to us. Only
sorry.
nerds.
What are you sorry about?
Sorry, I didn't turn voiceover off, and a message was spouting out, and I always can't ever remember if the person on the phone can hear it or not.
Didn't hear a thing.
Yeah, no, we didn't hear it.
Oh,
Okay, good.
that robotic dead voice. I thought that was Ryan.
Maybe it was your Amazon Echo story at the end of the news article.
Oh yeah, I know.
Wow.
It was a friend of mine asking if I wanted her to buy some wine for this upcoming conference. So
Clearly.
I'll have to get back to her later.
Clearly, the answer is yes.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Microsoft. So Microsoft. Now this is a article from last month, but I put it in because I wanted to talk a little bit more in depth about it because I feel like it's important. But Microsoft has invested $25 million in AI tech specifically for disability solutions. So they've created this program called AI for Accessibility. And they've plugged $25 million into this 5-year program that's aimed at giving developers the artificial intelligence tools to build intelligent solutions to benefit people with disabilities.
Well, it's nice to see the money going in. I'm curious to see what they actually do with it. But
people, I don't think, really understand what is meant by the term artificial intelligence.
Well, if you read down in the article, I think it said, AI's been around for 30 years, and Microsoft is hoping to roll this out to developers and stuff as well to work on accessibility AI initiatives as well. So, it's not just throwing this money in there and, hope something comes out of it. They're actually working with the community to develop product.
Well, exactly. And, and it is over 5 years. So, that's only $5 million a year. Mm-hmm. But, I think the more apt term, and, maybe we'll get an email from somebody who actually knows the ins and outs of this, but I'm assuming that machine learning and AI are sort of interchangeable terms. Machine learning, I think, is much less of a loaded term and a little bit more accurate, because that's what we're really talking about. We're talking about being able to build these apps that are able to learn and grow. I keep going back to the Spotify example of AI and the way that in which AI or machine learning can be used to power an app and to do really useful things. So for anybody who uses Spotify, Spotify will from time to time build you like custom playlists. It'll be like, hey, here's your daily mix, and it'll analyze your listening habits and build you a song playlist based on what you've been listening to recently. And be able to suggest music for you that it thinks you will like. So that's a good example of the way that the kind of AI that we're talking about in terms of accessibility apps. Another really good example is, remember we talked about the Lookout app that
Google's coming out with.
Perfect example, right? It's going to be using AI to, so in order to be able to use the camera to identify different objects in the room, that's all powered by AI. It's got to be able to recognize what's what and be able to rank those in importance in order to tell the user what's relevant to them.
Well, and even in that Microsoft article, I don't know if you want to read part of the sections where they talk about some of the examples, but, what is it? Transcription.
Transcription is another one, yeah.
You just reminded me of another article that I stumbled across on the weekend. Apparently, Facebook has been using AI to try and remove nudity from Facebook. So they've got these algorithms that go and creep through the pictures, and when they find a picture that they think is nudity, they flag it, and I guess either take it down or what have you. Apparently, the AI is not perfect because it keeps identifying desert scenes as skin.
That's too funny.
And cactus.
Yeah. Let's just not go there.
All right, she went there.
You set it up. How could I not? How could I not?
I had no idea there was nudity on Facebook.
No.
It's the internet, Rob.
It's not. Facebook is not the internet, Grandma. It's not the Google. You know what I mean.
People,
I had no idea. And does that mean previously there was a guy that his job was to like cruise through Facebook looking for nudity?
Probably.
To take it down?
Rob sitting there going, how do I get that job?
That's right. What search terms do I use?
I think that's a whole nother Facebook that maybe nobody knows about.
Clearly, it's the dark.
An whole nother app.
The dark web of Facebook.
The dark web.
Facebook after dark.
Fleshbook.
Right?
Damn.
Fleshbook.
Flesh.
Oh my God.
Fleshbook.com. Is it open?
Ryan,
is it available?
Go get it. Get it right now.
Buy it.
We're going to buy it. We're going to make our first million.
Guarantee you that is taken. I guarantee you. There's no way that one's left unprotected.
I think Zuckerberg's lawyers are worth more than mine, so I don't think I'd have a fighting chance.
No, but Ryan, so I don't know. What's your take on this? Like what?
I think it's exciting. Like I was saying, some of the examples that they show we're talking about. I think on the fly transcription of text and on audio. It actually wouldn't even surprise me if in 5, maybe 10 years, we're actually seeing AI do descriptive audio for the blind.
Wow.
Instead of actually humans having to look at scripts and plays and that type of thing. Because AI is getting to the point where it can learn, it can evolve. So why could you not feed it a scene and have it be able to describe
the action?
Yeah.
That's a really good one.
Lawrence of Arabia steps off of his camel onto a woman's naked back.
That's right.
Yep.
That would be removed because it's nudity. Remember, that's a problem.
So I think,
well, isn't that like, Seeing AI, the app they put out?
That's right.
All of the things, all of the things they've added into that app, when they added, the handwriting, and things of that sort, or, the facial recognition and all of that. It's just getting crazy what they can do with AI. It just really is.
Yeah. And that's just, I'm minute.
That's
AI
only a part
power, if they actually threw, more server power at this AI and whatever you want to do, whether it's descriptive audio, on the fly transcription, you name it, there's no end to what AI can do.
Well, and that's the nice thing about funding something like this is that they're giving it to the developers and saying, hey, look, come
throw
up
something
with
at the wall and see what sticks.
Let's see what you can develop. So it could be an exciting 5 years, and who knows, we could see another huge app like Seeing AI. Seeing AI is huge, right?
In the iOS sphere, yep.
Oh, right.
Still don't have it on Android.
Oh, oops. Sorry.
But we'll have Lookout soon, so.
Yes, I did. My son was showing me that Lookout app, and I'm like, oh, this is so cool, this, that, and the other. And then I was reading about it. It said Google, Play Store, whatever, your guys' Play Store, whatever it's called. Sorry. And I'm like, wait, it's not available, for, Apple. And he's like, oh, no. I'm like, oh, okay. So, they all, I wish everything would just be available for everything. I really, really do. But
and that's another good point. In a way, you've got these three big players. You've got Apple, Microsoft, and Google, and it kind of makes you go, man, if these guys would just combine forces, if it could just be one device for everybody, and and you could just pool your resources and really develop together.
Yes.
What could they come up with?
Yes.
Well, you look at the Star Trek example, right? You never saw the guys walking around Star Trek going, "Oh, sorry, I can't transfer this file to you because you're using tricorder 4.5."
Right. Oh, sorry, Captain Kirk, we can't beam you up because
we're rebooting right now. We got a blue screen.
No.
Your phaser.
No, our starship
we can beam you up, but your phaser's incompatible.
So you'll be helpless when you get here.
That's right.
And if they couldn't roll it out for both device, both Android and iOS at the same time, would just be so ideal, because it does leave, the Android users, in the dark, or it uses the iOS users in the dark, and each app is something that, everybody wants to use. So,
well, and I keep hearing,
it's a shame.
And I keep hearing the excuse, and I'm going to say it's an excuse. People can write and send me all the hate mail they want. But all these developers are saying most of the blindness market are using iOS. And I understand that, and that's fine. But we have companies, and I'm going to call them out, like AMI, Accessible Media, here in Vancouver and Toronto, who released an app, and it's only available on iOS. It's not on Android. And there are a bunch of blind Android users who would love to see that app come to them and have complained to them, but we still don't have it. So there's no reason why it can't be put out on both platforms.
Yeah.
Other than I would imagine development cost. I guess it doubles your development cost, and
right.
you go where the majority of the market is. So I can understand it, but you're right.
Degree, yeah.
You're right. It's
if you're going to call yourself an accessibility media company, maybe release it on both platforms.
We're sorry, AMI. We don't.
No, we're
mean
not.
Shut up, Brian. Shut up.
No.
Turn off Ryan's
no.
mic.
It's AT Banter. I'm bantering. off.
Okay.
Well, there goes the shares right there.
Yep.
There goes the
It's
shares.
fine. I'll bleep them. It's okay. I have edit power anyways.
That's
I can
right.
just cut them right out of the show.
I have the original.
I'm like George Lucas with the prequels. Like
Yeah, right. Ryan's not even on this podcast anymore.
That's right.
It's all AI.
I'm just gonna feed stuff into my Google Home. Oh, if only it was that easy. Okay, hey, let's talk some big Canada news.
Canada news.
Yeah, sorry, Maria. We're gonna go to the Great White North here for a minute with this one.
Well, I have to say I did, listen to the two of the links that you guys sent me, and all I can say is wow and wow.
Right.
That's big news.
It is big news, and it frankly it's a little surprising that it's took
taken
us
this long.
But so anyways, what we are talking about last week was a bit of a major news break for us here because we finally got some national accessibility legislation tabled. Yeah, that's right. It's called the Accessible Canada Act.
Wait, hang on.
Cowbell.
Oh,
Cowbell.
wait, that deserves a cowbell. Double.
There we go. Jingle sticks and cowbell for that one.
Yeah. The Accessible Canada Act, which covers federally regulated sectors such as banking, interprovincial and international transportation, telecommunications, and government-run services such as Canada Post, aims to identify, remove, and prevent barriers for an estimated 4 million Canadians with physical, sensory, mental, intellectual, learning, communication, or other disabilities.
There's a plain language version of the act, which we'll link into the show notes as well, and I think it summarizes it fairly well in the principles of the bill.
Okay, go.
It says the principles of the bill are meant to guide its future interpretation. They are rooted in the understanding that barriers to accessibility are at the heart of inequalities between Canadians with and without disabilities. The principles are consistent with Canadian and international law and communicate the goals of the bill. The main principles are inherent dignity, equal opportunity, barrier-free government, autonomy, inclusive design, and meaningful involvement. So the people who have to comply with this act are Parliament, including the Senate, House of Commons, Library of Parliament, and the Parliamentary Protective Service. The Government of Canada, including all government departments, crown corporations, and agencies. The federally regulated private sector, including organizations in the transportation sectors, broadcasting and telecommunications services, and the banking and fiscal sectors, and the Canadian Forces and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, while allowing for consideration related to a bona fide occupational requirement, such as certain physical requirements necessary in order to carry out certain jobs. So this is a broad piece of legislation. I guess it's going to remain to be seen how enforceable it is, but at least it's a step forward for sure. It's a definite step forward, and just the recognition of those principles, I think, is a key piece of it.
Yeah, and I think as time goes on, things are going to become a lot more clearer as to, what is actually going to be covered under this, how people are going to be able to respond, because the last thing I want to see is, I think it said in there, 40% of complaints were human rights complaints or something to governments and stuff because of inaccessibility to venues and whatever else. I would hate us to start, turning to litigation.
Oh, here we go again.
Absolutely.
Well, that's where we started, though. That's how we
got
to this point.
Yeah,
because you think about Donna Jodin, who sued the Canadian government
Right.
because she couldn't get information from the Canadian government.
Right.
That's where all this started.
That's where it started, yes. But I think if you look back at that article, it said like 40% of people filed human rights complaints because there was no other avenue.
Right. Yeah,
right?
sure.
So if we're not filing human rights complaints anymore, is there going to be more litigation because people aren't falling into place? And I really hope not, because what has that done in the U.S.? It's done a lot of good stuff, but at the same time, I think it set people back as well.
Why?
Well, you look. I don't know if you've looked at the ADA Act, but it sounds like in stuff I've read, the ADA Act is getting softer and softer and softer.
Well, it is. But I mean, that's a problem. I mean,
exactly,
for sure. I think that litigation is an important part of.
For sure.
I mean, it has to be.
Yeah.
And really, if people comply, there's going to be no litigation. So,
right.
Really, the fact that if there's an overabundance of litigation, it's because not enough people are complying with the act, and so I mean, it's an important part of the process. And in fact, the government is saying that it. Let me see. What does it say here? The government has earmarked $290 million over 6 years to implement the legislation,
right?
Which includes fines of up to $250,000 for violations.
So I think in 6 years, when we have a clearer picture of what this involves, we'll have a better idea in how to proceed. Because, if you walk into a building that's 40 years old and doesn't have Braille in the elevator buttons, are you going to sue? Because they're not complicit.
If it's a government building, you would probably have a right to.
Sure. And you should.
Maybe.
I mean, honestly, if that's the way that you're going to implement change, I mean, what are you going to do? Complain to the receptionist? You think that's going to get anything done?
No, but that's what I'm saying. You think of all the old buildings on all the provinces and cities across this country, and we have no real guidelines as to what this bill involves yet. All they're saying is in 6 years we'll have a better idea.
Well,
right.
And this is something
we have to start somewhere. I totally agree.
Yes. Yeah, and this is what a lot
really doesn't explain much yet.
That's exactly what a lot of advocates are saying, that it's a good starting point, but it still needs to be improved upon. There needs to be some additions, and it needs to be strengthened a bit in terms of like just what are the violations.
Right.
Like all that stuff needs to be really laid out and really cemented in order for it to really take hold. But I don't know, like it's a little bit amazing to me that it's 2018 and we are just getting a national
I agree.
act like this. I mean, the ADA down in the States has been around since, I don't even know. I got to assume.
I thought it was the 80s. I don't know. ADA.
No, it was the 90s, because I remember Mike May, who's a friend. He was there when it was signed. And I started with AT in the 90s. So I'd say it's probably about mid-90s it came into effect.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's ADA Act of 1990.
There we go.
Yeah. So, I mean, God, that's a huge gap. So,
for sure.
And I mean, here in Canada, there have been provincial versions of this.
Ontario's had a
for a few years,
and I think Nova Scotia. I think Nova Scotia's had one as well. But, nothing nationally. So this is, it's kind of a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that, Ryan, you're absolutely right. I think that, it's going to need some work.
We need to see some specifics is what we need to see.
Yeah. I actually talked to a lawyer one time about the ADA versus Canada's human rights legislation. He actually said that Canada's human rights legislation had more teeth than the ADA does in the States. However, people don't know how to use it.
Right.
There was one thing in the article. I mean, because I did listen to it because I was kind of like, wow, this is all just happening now, like you guys were kind of saying. But and I know two things was it's in the one that kind of broke it down into like layman's terms, which was way more up my alley. They would define barriers, defined disability, but it kind of maybe kind of re-listen one more time. It said defining barriers, and it would be barriers could be architectural, technical, so on so on. And then it says attitudinal. I'm like, what?
An attitudinal.
Is that a word?
That is a word.
Attitudinal. So, watch your attitudinals out there because, it's a barrier. But I thought that was, I never heard that word before, but I loved it. And I'm going to work it into a blog as soon as possible.
Yes.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm going to sue Boeing because I can't fly an airplane.
Oh, Ryan.
Well,
shut up.
Hey,
but here's the thing,
it's a barrier.
Also
It's a barrier.
States, well, that's true. It's true. That whole up in the air thing. But the thing is here in the States, you have lawyers making millions off of suing small businesses because they're not ADA compliant.
Yeah.
They will walk in and go, yep, your doorway's not wide enough, and boom, you fix this or I'm suing you. And these small businesses are, running scared half the time. So, I mean, everyone does what they can do. Obviously some businesses don't care, but, there's a big, there's big dollars to be made by people lawyers paying people in wheelchairs to go and cause havoc on businesses because they're not, perfectly compliant or whatnot. And they should be, but their lawyers are making a business out of it.
Yeah.
So that's unfortunate too, because it can put a small business out of business.
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah. Back in the early noughts, I was over in Kauai, staying at a friend's condo, and apparently their it's equivalent of a strata corporation in Canada. I think it's maybe a condo corporation or something. But they were being sued because they didn't have wheelchair ramps.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
And apparently it was from somebody who was basically going around from property to property looking for ones that didn't have wheelchair ramps. And
exactly.
suing.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly what they do. Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I think is most important, the real keyword here in the act was the idea of inclusive design, because I think going forward, that's the major component. I think we need to start developing things, building buildings. Everything needs to be developed with that notion of inclusive design, because then you don't have to worry about it going on. Like, part of the problem is the idea of retrofitting buildings, is retrofitting properties in order to make them accessible. That's where the big money is. But if we start, really developing things, from, apps on your phone to, entire office buildings with the idea of inclusive design, it's going to solve a lot of problems. Yeah,
I agree.
It's a step.
Absolutely.
And it's a positive step. It's a good step. It's a great starting point. And we'll know more about it as it becomes,
in the next 6 years, I guess,
as it becomes more enforced.
Well, I mentioned, we'll try and maybe get them on the show.
Change your attitudinals first.
That's right. Well, this is Canada. You don't want to leave your attitudinals hanging out in the winter.
Ooh,
exactly. That's a good tip.
They'll drop right off.
It means I can sue Ryan for attitudinal barriers. Got a bad attitudinal barrier, Ryan, today. No more being grumpy.
Not grumpy.
No, not today you're not. But
yeah.
Today you're in a good mood, believe it or not. He's on his good behavior because Maria's here.
Well, thank you.
Weren't you the one saying we needed more women on the show?
Yeah. Clearly it was me.
It didn't take me long to say yes. I didn't hesitate. So, I knew what I was getting into.
That's right. Hey, let's talk some Google.
Again?
I know, right? Well, this is a minor story. I actually,
minor.
Yeah, it's just,
Wait. Maria, do you have a smart assistant, digital assistant at home?
I do. We have two kinds. We have the Echo and we have Google Home. So my son is all Google Home. The rest of the house is Amazon Echo. So I do hear him yelling at his Google in his room. I don't ask. I don't go in. I don't want to know. Okay? So,
never come between a man and his Google.
Show me pictures of deserts.
What? There's none? What happened?
Oh, hold on. I just set off.
Yeah. So so I did read this article, and, I do hear him saying, all honesty, hey, Google, turn on this light. Hey, Google, do this. Hey, Google, do that. But so the article would help, it was saying that they're going to try to give you a little more time to have some conversation with your Google.
That's right.
So
yeah, they've rolled this. I guess they rolled this out last week.
Yeah.
So now there is an option in in the Google Home app where you can turn on what's called continued conversation, which means once you scream at your Google and activate it, you've got
I think 7 or 8 seconds to give it a second request without using the trigger word again.
That's right. So you don't have to scream at it every time and keep repeating the phrase. So it's a minor augmentation, but pretty useful. I turned it on mine this last night.
Mine's on.
And it's cool. Again, it's just making them a little bit more intuitive, making your interaction with it that much easier. So.
Yeah. Well, and I tend to do it even with the other device, the Amazon Echo. I, will have to say, I won't say it because, it might turn on, but, and I'll forget to say it, and I'll have like a second request and I'll forget to say it. And then I'm just, I'm screaming at, anything I can find in the room at that point. But, so I think it's a great little characteristic, great little trait to have on it. I think it's, again, it just makes it simpler, maybe less frustrating for some who just tend to, forget to say the key phrase altogether. So I think it's just a nice little addition.
Have you ever seen the video? I think it's called Amazon Echo Silver or something.
No,
where there's
and it's hysterical.
It's a bunch of seniors yelling at their Amazon Echoes like Amanda, Amy, Amelia, and they're trying to get the Amazon Echo to respond to them, and it's pretty funny.
Yeah, they can't remember the name, or she'll say like he'll ask what the weather is, and I says it's cold in this, like. No, and they'll argue with it. No, it's not, and you don't know what you're talking about. And, just kind of senior moments, if you will. It's pretty funny. It's pretty funny.
Oh, it's going to be us one day. Don't worry.
Oh, yeah.
Who knows what we're going to be fighting with.
You could switch it. I'm sure you could be able to switch it at some point to go to silver, at one time when you need it.
Okay, let's see. What else can we talk about? Hey, did you see this article on Cool Blind Tech about this plastic overlay that goes over iPads?
I did, and I'm not quite sure. Like, is it just a piece of plastic
I did my homework.
So that you can track your finger, or does it actually interact with the display somehow?
No, I think what it does is it's a plastic overlay. I guess it
just to help keep your finger in line as you're going across text or something.
That's part of it, but as your finger travels across the line, it will read out the word. So yeah, I think so. I think I'm assuming that the raised part of it is just a line marker.
So it's not like smart plastic.
No,
I think it's just plastic. It's just an overlay.
Okay.
It's got a bunch of ridges on it, and it just gives you a line to follow as you're tracking across.
Oh, okay.
And then you can use an app to read the text to you. I'm not entirely sure why somebody would want to do this.
Exactly, Steve. I'm like, what's the point of this when you can go, swipe 2 fingers, draw down, it can read to you.
Yeah.
I watched the video and listened, and it was so slow, and I'm like, I would go insane.
Yeah, it looks like a really tedious way of reading on a tablet. I don't get it.
I don't either.
Maybe it might be good in a scholastic setting when you really want to go slow, perhaps. I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of with you. I thought, okay, well, this is a interesting, probably very low-tech solution, but there are plenty of other solutions that would be far more powerful.
Or efficient.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah, I don't get it.
There's got to be some things that we're just not picking up that it must do that makes it valuable. And you're right. The gal in the video was getting her PhD, and it almost looked like she was reading Braille. I could see, her fingers kind of just moving across, and it was going very, very slow. And like I said, maybe there's another part of it that we're just not catching. But I thought, it was a little strange. And you could turn the rate of speech down, percentage wise. So
I wonder if it's a specific app or something that it works with.
Well, I think absolutely. I think there is a specific app.
Mention that.
Maybe because it seems to me in the body of the article, what they really push is the idea that you can control the rate of speed based on how fast you're moving your finger. So maybe that's the big selling point, is that like when you're just swiping and having a page read to you, you don't really have much control.
Unless you go into your rotor and you change your speech settings and stuff.
But even then, you can't stop it. Say you want to, stop mid-sentence for whatever reason, whether you're, transcribing that into another device or something.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what it is that you can literally just kind of control. You have exact control over the speech.
Yeah, and I don't have the research behind it, but there may be a fundamental difference in using this for reading for comprehension versus reading for recreational purposes. So this may help cement concepts as you're reading, because you're self-directed, because you've got that tactile bit. Because we already know from research done with people with other print-related disabilities like dyslexia that adding a tactile element to it can help reinforce learning concepts. So,
that's a good point. That's a really good point.
Yeah. So that could be what's behind this, but
that could be it. Kind of the sense of touch and the listening and the overall more control on it could just add up to the perfect mix for some folks.
Yeah, and it would probably be a pretty easy way of going back and rereading as well. If you just go back to the beginning of the line, start again. Right. If you're trying to nail something down, or if you're dealing with complex terminology, that sort of thing.
When you're not having to swipe, tap, double tap, triple finger, double tap.
Look at us, right? We started the conversation like, this app is crap, and now we've ended it like, yeah, no, actually this could be really useful. So we just.
Well, I'm glad we arrived.
These folks don't even need a marketing department. We'll do all the work for them.
Isn't this what it's about? Is for us to banter about it, then we all kind of come up to like,
That's right.
Okay, yeah, we get it now. All right, fine.
That's right.
There we go. For once, bantering actually
turned
positive. Usually it just sort of degrades over time.
Usually it's an attitudinal barrier.
So those attitudinal things.
Okay, last story. You guys ready?
No.
This is the weird one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This is a good one. This is good.
I'm going to take my Amazon out of my bedroom.
Okay, so let's recap what the last weird Alexa story was.
The last weird Alexa story.
Well, was it right? Like there were some reports where people's Alexas, or I always get their
Amazon Echoes.
Their Echoes.
Yeah.
Their Echoes were going off spontaneously and doing this weird cackling laugh for no apparent reason.
Well, and the last one was they were listening to conversations and sent that to one of their contacts.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's another good one. Okay. Yeah. So apparently now the latest Alexa story comes from, where's this guy from? I think he was from California, actually. No, yeah, he was from San Francisco. Guy by the name of Sean Kinnear. His Echo apparently went off just randomly and said the following: "Every time I close my eyes, all I see is people dying." And then that was it.
Silence.
And then silence. And apparently he tried to go in and he was like, "Hey, what did you say?" And it was like, "Nothing.
I don't understand."
Yeah.
Right. So again, seems to be rhyme or reason. He says he didn't set it off. It just happened. Yeah.
No explanation from Amazon on this one?
Not yet.
Nothing yet.
I'm just a little disturbed that it didn't use proper grammar, because that should have been all I see are people dying.
True. If you're going to be creepy, Echo.
Yeah, come on. At least get the grammar right. Jeez.
Step it up.
Well, and so this is number 3.
Well,
I don't know. Shouldn't we expect glitches in this stuff? I mean, 10 years ago, the idea of a digital assistant, our minds would have been blown. We'd have been like, oh my God, that's crazy. So, it's advanced technology. Should we really be surprised that, there's the odd glitch?
For a long time, I've believed in spirits in electrical equipment.
Ghost in the machine kind of thing.
Yes, I believe in the ghost in the machine. And this goes back to my days fixing photocopiers. This is like 30 years ago. But I was working on this photocopier, and I swear to God, this photocopier was possessed. It would wait until I'd left before it would break down. It would work while I was there, and then as soon as I left, it would go. And there was this girl who had a desk right beside this photocopier, and we started joking about how the thing was possessed. So I said, well, I guess I'd better do a depossession on it then. And I went and I drew a little cross on the inside on one of the labels on the inside of the things. And I made the sign of the cross in front of it and babbled something in Latin. I don't even remember what I said. But I closed it up and the machine started working. And then about 10 seconds later, this girl 2 desks away goes, "Hey, my calculator stopped working."
Oh, God.
I swear to God, the demon jumped from the photocopier into the calculator. So I think what we're really seeing going on is demonic possession of Amazon Echoes. Yep.
Well, do you think that somehow, I mean, again, I am not super, high tech and all that, but could it possibly be that somehow someone gets in there, puts a little code or something in there and, has this kind of stuff happen? I mean, I don't know.
Well, that was another story we talked about a few weeks back is, there are things the Amazon Echo can hear that we can't hear. So hackers could send, signals.
Yeah, there was a story about sort of a vulnerability in some of these devices where they can be activated using, I guess, ultrasonics.
Ultra frequencies, yeah.
That, we couldn't hear, but...
And again, I'll be watching TV and there'll be something happen on the TV and my Amazon Echo's right below the soundbar on the TV and it'll trigger it.
And I've had that happen. I've had my home go off for no particular reason. Just the lights start going on
and I'm hearing something.
So, glitches happen. Although I don't know, this one's pretty weird. This is
I don't know, guys. What's more likely that the things are being activated by sounds that you can't hear or demonic possession? I'm pretty sure demonic possession is the simpler answer.
I feel like
let's make it even. Let's go even crazier.
Okay, sure.
Wait,
why not? It's the end of the podcast.
Are you calling me crazy?
No,
let's go crazy.
I'm going crazier.
All right, crazier.
They say they're not listening unless you are using the keyword. But other articles say they're always listening.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're always listening for the keyword.
But is that all they're listening for? I don't think so. Not if they're being triggered by TVs and stuff.
Well, they're probably watching out for angels. Too. They'd have to skedaddle pretty quick if one of those things shows up.
Well,
quick, get out, go to the stereo.
Go to the Google Home.
Well, you know how they, so many folks won't get these types of devices because it's Big Brother watching.
Sure.
In fact, my dad's wife, she doesn't even, no Facebook, no this, no that, because Big Brother's watching you, through that, which is, okay, fine. But, I think, that's true. It's like, are you having private conversations and is it being recorded somewhere? Is it, like that one couple, which they, Amazon did come up with a big, long explanation for what possibly happened. But, is any of that being recorded and sent up to the, the big clouds in the sky and kept somewhere?
I'd say it obviously
I don't think of all that stuff, but a lot of people won't want these things in their house. And then they hear these stories and they really don't want these things in their house.
Yeah. True. I mean, at some point, people, juggle certainly privacy concerns. And, I'm not going to say that there are no privacy concerns with this. I mean, I think that, historically they've been pretty transparent on what's recorded, what's uploaded to the cloud. I mean, that's getting even better because privacy concerns are becoming a little bit more prevalent.
Yeah.
People are beginning to make, they're beginning to get some pushback with privacy concerns from people. So they seem to be being more transparent about it. So, but I mean, you have to juggle those privacy concerns with convenience. And that's what a lot of people come down on the side of, I'd rather have my life be convenient than the fact that, this thing's recording everything I have for dinner.
Well, it's not even so much a convenience factor because we've talked about, how these things enable people with disabilities as well to do things they couldn't normally do on their own.
That's right.
Right.
Sure.
So there's a whole other avenue there that we've mentioned before.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's going to get even worse. And I mean, this spins off into a little bit of a tangent, but I'll just bring it up anyways. But I mean, it's going to get worse in terms of AI and marketing because part of the excitement about AI as well and machine learning is that marketing is going to be able to get a lot better. Because it's going to look at stuff like shopping habits. It's going to...
I'll only start getting ads I'm interested in.
That's
Yay.
right. Well, that's exactly it. The idea of spam, in 5 years might be completely outdated because these algorithms, this machine learning is going to know you so well that it's only going to deliver you stuff that it knows that you're interested in.
Mm-hmm. And I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
you know who I want to hear comment on this?
Who?
M. Night Shyamalan. Because this thing just went, I see dead people.
That's true.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe, a lot of times, I have ordered through Amazon, or make an order of something. I'll say, Amazon, order this or however it goes. And all of a sudden they're asking me if I want these 16 other things. I'm like, no, I don't need that stuff. But, pretty soon they'll just probably send you the stuff and just go, oh, here's a label to send back what you don't want, because we've ordered it before and we think you're out of it. So we want it.
It's very true. I mean, this could take a lot of different forms in terms of analyzing stuff like shopping habits or preferences or, any number of different variables. So, it's...
Well, like you mentioned earlier, it's kind of already doing that. Spotify, kind of is Netflix.
And we love it. Oh my God.
Stuff and such things you might be interested in.
Netflix is another perfect example of AI at work, right? Yeah. That's how it serves up what it thinks you're going to be interested in, right? So, it's already there and we're already using it and probably depending on it quite a bit. Because who goes into the Netflix library and looks manually?
I do.
Do you?
Sometimes.
All the time.
Yeah?
Yep.
Yeah, well, you're a dinosaur.
That's true.
I just go, whatever it thinks I'm going to like.
That certainly explains these tiny little arms.
That's why you're chewing on all that raw meat.
Well, I do love, even when I'm online with, say, Amazon or whatever, that says, other people bought this, you may like it too, or we might suggest these things. I'm a sucker. I'll start looking at that stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
I do kind of like that. So, overall, they're going to get you any way they can, whether it's by, Amazon Echo telling you what you like, or be it, Spotify, I get iHeartRadio doing that same thing to me. Oh, we think you'll like this. And, all of that. And people I'm a sucker for that stuff. Yep. I'm always like, oh, cool. Yeah. So, it works. And I think, consumers are going to get that a lot more and businesses are going to hook into it. And it's just going to be a big cluster at some point. But, it's fabulous marketing. It really, really is. Right.
And especially if they can leverage that type of technology into accessibility as well.
Yes.
Yeah, we could be looking at a real revolution of some really useful apps. So.
Oh yeah. I mean, I love me and Amazon Prime. I love ordering, here in San Diego, here where I am, we have where I can order on, is it Amazon Now?
Yeah.
Prime Now. Prime Now. And, when I can in the morning just do a whole list of things that are delivered between 2 and 4 in the afternoon, and it's awesome. I mean, yes, would I still like to be able to drive out and go to the store and do like I all used to do? Yes. But it's sure nice to know that I can go on and get some things from, either the Amazon warehouse that they have here, Whole Foods, whatnot, and have it delivered to my door. Oh yeah, I'm all over it. So again, accessibility, be it apps, or if I tell the Amazon Echo, I need these things delivered, ordered from Amazon, and it's just done, and which is even easier because I'll have voice. But anything. It's just anything. I mean, it's just crazy the amount of even skills that are on a Google Home or an Amazon Echo that can make somebody with the disabilities life just easier.
That's right.
Just easier.
Okay.
And, making things more accessible, manageable, and less frustrating. I mean, that's what I'm all about.
So if Maria's using the app for Zoom to join this conference, if we all speak loud enough, we could probably do some online ordering from her Echo. Alexa, I need a new mixer, please.
Oh my God, I'm going to go over to my Echo right now and see what we can get. I've got like 7 boxes show up in 2 days. I can see it now. I have enough. Literally, the Amazon delivery guy, he already knows us way too well. It's embarrassing sometimes.
Yeah, ours is the same.
Wait, where is your Echo?
It's one in the living room and one in the bedroom.
Oh, you don't have one down here?
No, just the Google
Home. I wanted
Home
to
down
ask
here.
it if it saw dead people.
Just the Google Home. Ask the Google Home.
Hey, Google, do you see dead people?
My apologies. I don't understand.
That's because you're not a creep like Alexa.
It's not possessed.
Oh my gosh. You know what? Speaking of Google, and I'm not going to, make this a whole nother topic, but my son just introduced me to Google Assist, the app.
Yep.
That is, I have to say, that Google Assist app is pretty darn smart.
It is. And
I like it a lot.
Google Lens is very powerful too. I don't know if you played around with that, but
I haven't.
I think you can get Google Assistant on your iOS device now.
yes, I think you can.
Yeah.
I have it.
Yeah,
I have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. And Google Lens as well. I mean, you can take a picture of a flower and it will identify the flower.
Wow.
It'll be able to sort of recognize the different components, cross-reference that with a library, I'm assuming, of other pictures. And it can be like, hey, this is a rose.
Mm-hmm,
But,
Well, I, again, it's a kind of the crossover. It's bringing, a Google Assist into on a iOS. And I forget, Siri can't she can't tell me half the stuff I want to know sometimes.
Yeah.
So I go into Google Assist and boom, every time with details and a phone number and an address,
That's right.
every time.
Google has really hit it out of the park in terms of the digital assistant. I have to say, I don't think. I mean, I know that right now the market share I think is still goes to the Amazon by a margin. But I don't know. I think
the Google Home devices, yeah.
Yeah, but I think the Google Assistant I think is above and beyond the best out of the three of them. So the other two have a lot to catch up on. But
Yeah. Well, I've shared at least the app form of, Google Assist with a lot of friends who, again, it's the voice activated assistants, if you will. And, they're all like, huh, what? And I go, you got to download this. It's awesome. It's way better than that Siri chick. So anyway, I'm sure you've already talked about that at some point.
Well, absolutely. And what it kind of amazes me too, that, over the past 3 years, I would say that, especially a mini, the fact that a mini is what, $40? 50?
No, in Canada, it's the 79, I think.
So in the States, it's
like
sort of
$50.
$50. Somebody who has a visual impairment, I mean, there should be no home that does not have at least a Google Mini in it, because you're absolutely right. It does add so much value and make things a lot more convenient for a fairly low price. So, it's one of these things that's a mainstream device, but I think that has had incredible AT potential. So
Yeah. And it doesn't have to turn on all your lights and your thermostat and all those really fancy things. It could be as simple as wanting to know what time it is. I mean, seriously.
Yeah. Looking up recipes, setting a timer.
Setting a timer, recipes, playing. I have music on in my house all day. And I, just being able to pick pretty much whatever I want all day. And I listen to news radio in the morning, kind of get caught up, so I totally agree with you.
You listen to AT Banter.
You listen to podcasts, kind of a thing. And it's, again, like you said, it's just the smallest device, the smallest one there is, just to even do the minimal stuff, because you can always, go big from there. But I didn't want one my family bought me an Echo a couple of years ago for my birthday. I'm like, oh, it's because you guys want it. I don't want this thing. And they wanted it. And I was like, whatever. And I kind of hesitated using it. I didn't talk to it and do anything. I'm like, I don't want this. I don't want this. But it was part of me probably coming through the, acceptance phases of, these are things that are going to be helpful to you. Now, just just use them. And the minute you really start getting into using it, you're like, oh yeah, this is awesome. And I'm thrilled. I have one in my office, in the bedroom, in the kitchen. And then of course my son has his, hey Google in the bedroom or whatever he's doing in there. And so, it's pretty much throughout the house, but he's connected all of our Echoes too. So I guess I can play music everywhere.
Right.
Now we can talk to each other in each room. Right. Like you have, it's like an intercom system now. So there's a lot to it. I don't pay that much attention, but I just want music. Tell me what time it is, and I'm happy.
Yeah, I mean, I think one other small addition too. I think the other real big game-changing app that's still due to come out. It's been in beta for a while now, but it's the Google Voice Access app that will allow you to completely control a smartphone through just your voice, and that's going to have some huge implications for people with limited mobility, physical access.
Yes.
Quadriplegics.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think that's going to be a big game changer
people
as well.
With ALS.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
wow.
So hopefully, I'm hoping that we're going to see that this year. They briefly touched on it during I/O, but hopefully that'll be the next big app.
That'd be great.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. Well, let's wrap this up, you guys. We're babbling today.
We are.
I can see Steve checking his watch.
He's missing his Sudoku. I can never say that word. Sudoku.
No, it's Sudoku, isn't it?
Sudoku.
Is it Sudoku or Sudoku?
Sudoku.
We have to.
It's math.
It's math, exactly. Math. It's like new math.
It's counting up to 9.
That's math. Forget it. I don't do math recreationally. No, thank you.
Sudoku is torture, if you ask me.
I hear you. I don't even like word searches. I never liked any of those things, like crossword puzzles. I never got people who did crossword puzzles. They just pissed me off. I'd get like 3 done and then be like, well, I don't know. I don't know what a 5-letter word for redundancy is.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
That starts with an F. I don't know.
Don't say it. They won't share it.
All right, let's get out of here, boys and girl. Sorry, I'm used to the SausageFest.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he called us the SausageFest.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, Ryan.
Yes, sir.
Where can people find us?
They can find us online at atbanter.com.
They can also drop us a line if they so desire, atbanterpodcast@gmail.com.
That is true. Did you know they also can find us on Twitter and Facebook?
Yes, I did.
Did you know that they could also find us on Instagram?
I did.
Did you know that they can't find us on Pinterest?
Yes, I did know that as well because we don't understand Pinterest. That's right. So someone drop us a line and explain Pinterest to us, please.
And you can find us on all the media platforms and your smart assistants.
Woohoo. And please go rate us. Go rate us, but only if you're going to rate us high. If you thought this one sucked, just go away.
Just only 5-star reviews, please. Is that legal? Can we do that?
I assume so. I assume so. Maria, where can people find you?
They can find me at girlgoneblind.com for all of my blogs and all kinds of other good stuff on there. They can find me on Facebook and Twitter as well. Facebook is Girl Gone Blind. Twitter is at girl_gone_blind. I'm also on Instagram, and I am not on Pinterest either. So
yeah,
that a girl.
Not. So isn't Pinterest mostly pictures and stuff? So I don't know.
I think so. I don't know, recipes.
We're not sure.
I don't know. I don't understand. Boards and pinning stuff.
You know what? I used to be on Pinterest, before I lost vision, and I didn't make any of the recipes or anything anyway. So what's the point?
Exactly.
I was one of those ones that would attempt, and it would look like shit. So anyway, I don't like that.
Oh, thanks a lot, Maria. Now we can't share that.
Yeah, no shares. Jeez.
Wait, you said you were going to work clean.
$H*T. See, it's not the same. It's just not the same. So anyway, but yes, and I love people contacting me on social media. And thank you so much, you guys, for having me on. I was thrilled when I was asked. And I'm welcome to be the girl anytime.
Okay, we'll take you up on that.
You betcha.
It's been an absolute delight.
Great. Well, hopefully I added a little bit of flavor and fabulous and funny to the banter. Like I said, I'm not the biggest on tech or anything like that, but I think this was good. This was fun. It was great.
Now, wait. So sorry. Now you're going to be in where? Where are you going to be in when? Maybe.
I am going to Nashville, Tennessee. Never been. Tomorrow, we have our starting on Thursday. We have our LHON, which is the eye condition I have, Leber's Hereditary Optic Neuropathy Symposium. And it is also in conjunction with the United Mitochondrial Disease Foundation Medical Symposium that happens at the same time. And LHON is a mitochondrial disease, hence why we're kind of linked up with them as well. So that's all happening Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And yeah, it's going to be busy. And then when I come back, I think I can breathe for a while. No conferences scheduled after that.
Perfect. Well, we're posting this on Friday, so anybody in that area, Saturday, they can come see you.
That's right. Well, I'll put it all out there on social media as well, and I'll have all my closest friends and mitochondrial family there, and I'll say, hey, listen to this. It's good stuff.
So yeah, we'd encourage anybody who hasn't gone to your blog, go to your blog. There's some great stuff there. Follow you on Twitter.
Yeah.
And
stalk you on Facebook.
It's stock away.
And rate us 5 stars.
Yeah. And 5 stars for these guys. 5 stars, definitely. Well, thanks again, you guys. And please, anytime, just shoot me an email. And I'd love to be on any other time. And banter.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks so much, Maria. And thanks for everybody else for listening in. We will see everybody next week.
This podcast has been brought to you by Canadian Assistive Technology, providing low vision and blindness solutions across Canada. Find us online at www.canastech.com. That's CANASSTECH.com. Or call us toll free at 1-844-795-8324. For all your assistive technology servicing needs, call Chaos Technical Services at 778-847-6840 or find them online at chaostechnicalservices.com. Music provided by bensound.com.
Whoa, look at that. Master of the one take.